Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're doing something a little different. We're putting the world's major government systems to the test. We're going to look at the data from this century and figure out which one actually performs the best for the people living under it.
So let's just dive right in. We're talking democracy, monarchy, a one-party state. We all have our own ideas, right? But what does the actual evidence tell us? Which system has proven to be the most effective in the modern world? Well, it turns out the answer isn't so simple, because there's really no such thing as a perfect system. It's all about trade-offs. What does a society value most? Is it freedom? Is it the speed of getting things done? Or is it long-term stability? So to figure this out, we first need to get on the same page about what we're actually comparing. Let's define the main contenders out there on the global stage.
We're going to start with the system that most political scientists kind of see as the modern benchmark, the one that all the others are usually measured against.
And this is a really important point that a lot of people miss. A liberal democracy is so much more than just voting every few years. It's actually a whole package deal. It's about limiting the government's power, protecting your individual rights, making sure there's a free press, and having a strong rule of law that applies to everyone.
And that design, it has some really powerful results. Because you can have criticism and peaceful changes in leadership, the system has this built-in way to fix itself when it goes off track. That resilience, plus a predictable legal system, is exactly why these countries consistently create the most innovation and long-term wealth.
Okay, and we've got to make a really important distinction here. When we say democracy, we're also including places like the UK or Japan. They're constitutional monarchies, which means they function just like democracies. The monarch is a figurehead. That's completely different from an absolute monarchy, where a single ruler has all the real power.
All right, so now let's pivot and look at the main alternative model we see in the world today, the primary challenger to liberal democracy.
You can think of the core idea here as basically the mirror image of a democracy. Instead of spreading power out and putting limits on it, this system concentrates all of it in one place. That could be a single person, but these days it's usually a single political party. And this right here is the fundamental trade-off. The biggest selling point is speed. I mean, you can build entire cities or transform whole industries with incredible, breathtaking efficiency. But that speed comes at a huge cost. There's almost no accountability. Without a free press or any real opposition to sound the alarm, massive mistakes can just keep going for years, and they often snowball into much, much bigger crises.
Okay, so we've got our players on the field, we've defined our two main contenders. Now it's time for the head-to-head comparison to see how they actually stack up based on some key metrics. And when you lay it all out like this, a really clear pattern emerges. Democracies are great at things that need flexibility and trust, like adapting to change, protecting rights, and building stable long-term prosperity. They can be slow, no doubt. Authoritarian systems, though, they win on speed, hands down. But they score really low on rights and resilience. And that high-risk growth model often goes hand in hand with another big problem, corruption. So let's zoom in on that last one, corruption. Because when you look at the global data, the story it tells is, well, it's incredibly stark. So this is from the Corruption Perceptions Index. It's the global gold standard for this stuff. And the difference is just staggering. On a scale where 100 is squeaky clean, full democracies average a score of 73, and non-democratic regimes, they're way down at 33. That is a massive gap, and it tells you everything about the power of transparency. This difference also changes how these systems operate on the world stage. It's really a tale of two different approaches to power. You've got the democratic bloc, the incumbent power, that basically built and still runs the global financial and legal systems. And then you have the challenger power, like China, which uses huge economic investments to build loyalty and offer the world a totally different way to develop. And if we switch gears and look at pure military might, you see a pretty interesting dynamic. Yeah, the top three are a mix of systems, including Russia's unique semi-presidential model. But look at the top 10 overall. Democracies are by far the most common, holding the #1 spot and most of the others as well. So, after looking at all this, resilience, the economy, corruption, global power, what's the final verdict? What does the analysis tell us? Well, the conclusion is pretty direct. When you crunch all the numbers and look at all the factors, the evidence we have so far consistently shows that liberal democracy has proven to be the most capable system for handling the incredibly complex challenges of our modern world.
And if one single data point just sums it all up, it has to be this one. That 40-point gap in corruption isn't just a statistic. It's a huge divide that represents accountability, transparency, and, at the end of the day, whose interests a government is really serving.
And that really brings us to the most important point of all. No system is perfect, not a single one. Every form of government is a choice. So the real question for any country isn't how do we find a perfect system? It's which specific trade-offs are we as a society willing to make to build the future we want?